So we're getting started on doing the preparing to mix. And so I'm, first of all, working with the drum tracks. And I have got them, I kind of did a rough mix of them. I ended up not using any of the bottom snare mic because it sounded ugly, too much of that rattling sound. And right now I have the hi-hat off. I'm not using that, but so I'm going to give it a listen here. Now, this track right here, let me color it slightly different so y'all can differentiate it. This is a tom, and you notice he hardly ever plays the tom. He doesn't play it at all here. He plays it right there, and he plays it there and there. And so if you just turn it on and let it run through the whole song, it just makes noise. I'm going to solo it out. Listen carefully. That it's just kind of humming through the whole song. So I'm going to zoom into this little area here, and we're going to cut it. There's where he hits the tom. If I go to my tool number 9, I can hear it real quickly. So he hits it. Da-da-dum-dum. Let me zoom in some more. So he hits it 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Let me cut it right here. And I'm going to click that and delete it because there's no more after that. And then I'll cut it about there. And now I'll go down to the next time he plays it, which let me see if it's right here. Yeah, he does. I'll zoom in here and then cut it right about there. Cut it there. Now I don't need this piece here. I'll zoom back so y'all can see that. I'm going to delete it and then go over here. Let's look at this real quick. I'm going to zoom in. See, there's a magnifying glass tool. Let's hear this. I go to tool 9. Same thing. Dum-dum-dum. That drummer likes that fill. So I'll back that up, go down to this. Let's see what he plays here. Same thing. Let's see. Yeah, just similar fill. I guess for this 6/8 time signature, that kind of fill makes sense. He looks like he plays it again here, so let's zoom in there. And he plays it twice, it looks like here. So I'll cut it there, cut it there. I cut it back here to kind of let it ring out a little bit. I don't, cut it too close so we won't hear any ring of the tom. So we got a few more spots here. Let's zoom in to cut this. And I'll cut it about there, cut it here, get rid of that. Zoom back out again. Looks like he's going to play it in this area here. Let's zoom in here and see what's going on. So he plays it there. He doesn't play it there. He plays it here. He doesn't play it there. He plays it there. So I'm going to click that and delete it. Click that, delete it. Click that, delete it. Do that. Do that. Do that. Get rid of this. Get rid of this. And I think the song's over at that point. All right. I'm going to save it. You can hit Control S or you can hit Control Alt S and it'll save your work. So let me hit Control S. I'm going to do the same thing with the floor tom. I'm going to make this track taller. Looks like he plays it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a few times here. So let's get to work on it. There's kind of an automatic way you can do this in Cubase. Let me show you how that works. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. I'm going to click it and I'm going to launch this thing called Detect Silence. And what you can do is adjust a threshold here to where you come down and it kind of like tries to find where he played it. And that might work pretty well. I have a pre-roll set for 5 milliseconds and post-roll for a whole second. 1,000 milliseconds is a second. So I'll process that. Then I'll go back in and kind of look at it and perhaps fine-tune what happened here. I think I'm going to increase the pre-roll so we don't lose some sound at the beginning. So hit process. And now it looks like it's all chopped up. Let me go to the beginning of the song. It looks like there's something over here. We definitely don't need that. And now by hitting the N key, it'll go down to the next event on this track, which is right there. So watch, I'll hit N, and it'll, since this is the highlighted track, see the cursor moves over to there. Let me zoom in so I can see what happened here. And that looks like it's fine. Now I'm going to hit N, it'll go to this spot right here, and then I hit N again, it'll go to the next spot. That looks good too. That's looking good. If I zoom in some more just to make sure I'm not shaving off the beginning of it, see, it had a little pre-roll, so we're not cutting off the beginning. I'm going to make this waveform taller by clicking right up in here. And now go to the next spot. When you make the waveform taller, it doesn't actually, you don't make it louder, you're just able to see it. Let me see what all this stuff is here. This might be a spot where he played a kind of a crescendo on the floor tom. So let me stretch this back and listen to it. Yeah, it looks like he starts playing it kind of quietly right there. So I had to repair that. Let's hear this whole thing now. Yeah, that's good. Now I'll go here. That's fine. And then and that one looks good. I'm basically kind of like going from one by hitting, as I said, the N key will go this way to the right. The B key will take you back. So if I'm zoomed in so I can see what's going on, that looks good. Go to the next spot. That looks good too. The next spot is another tom hit down here. I zoomed back a little bit so I can see what I'm doing. Let's see what's happening here. Yeah, that looks like it's probably okay. Sometimes you can just listen to one of these sections and make sure it's sounding all right. Yeah, good. Let's take this tom and pan it left and the other one and pan it right, and then now we'll continue. I'm going to make all these tracks the same height by, if you select all the drum tracks, I made the drum tracks green, and then do like this. Now they'll all be the same height. I'm going to go ahead and make this one the same color green as the others. And now I'll stop and we'll go to another section of the video. So we've got these tom tracks cleaned out. When I play this, I'm going to play it from right about here, and we'll hear these two tom hits. I'll zoom in a little bit. Now, I hear kind of a pop in the left speaker, and that's because I'm going to solo this out and let you hear it by itself. Watch, I'll solo it out. You hear how it pops at the end? Why don't we do this? I'm going to take all these regions on this whole lane here, and to select them all, I click here, and then I right-click, and I hit S. It selects all the regions there. Now I'm going to zoom in to one of them. It doesn't matter. Maybe this one right here in the middle. And now I'm going to extend the ending. I think I kind of cut it off too short. And I grab this down here and now pull it back this way. It doesn't want to go back any farther. I don't know why that is, but I'll figure that out. Yeah, I figured out what was happening. You see, if I zoom out farther, I'll see that there are some other files out here, and I wasn't able to pull them to the right because these are already maxed out. I can't pull them farther to the right. So if I just lasso all these like this, if I right-click here and hit S, it selects those two. I don't want to mess with these. These are those samples of drums we took at the end of the session. I don't know if I'm going to need those, but they're sitting there. Let's do it this way, though. I'm going to lasso all these. Now let me zoom into something here in the middle. And now grab this and extend it that way some. And now I'm going to go up to the top and fade it out. That way it won't be a pop. Let's do the same thing with the floor tom. I'm going to lasso all the stuff here, zoom in to a spot here. And now let's go ahead and pull this to the right a little bit to give it a little more ring, but then let's fade out the end. And now when we play a section, I don't think that we'll hear that pop anymore. Yeah, that's better. All right, got the drums sounding pretty good. Now I guess let's look at the bass. The bass is going to be this track here. Let's make it blue, I guess, just so we can see it quickly. Notice that I have a bunch of little spots where I punched in on him, so we're going to have to work with the bass a little bit to get him sounding good. So let's get at it. I turn up the volume on the bass and let's hear it. Now, I don't know if you remember, but I had some pretty radical EQ on the bass. It actually looks like this, where a whole bunch of low end is rolled out of it. Let's go ahead and start over. I'm going to reset the channel. So you click this, and now it's going to go back to the way it was. It almost sounds, I think this song's in the key of C. I've got a piano here beside me. I'm going to tap a key. Yeah, that's a C. Bum, 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 bum. So when he plays that low F, that's this note. That's the note that sounds bad. The other notes seem to sound okay. It's the F note that rattles. Listen to it. That's a C note. That's an F. That sounds terrible. So I hate to say it, but we're probably going to need to go through this track and kind of like rebuild it. I'm not quite sure exactly how I'm going to approach this. I'm going to think about this a little bit, and then we'll deal with it. So I was checking out this bass part, and it's actually a repeated pattern. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually create one good pattern, then I'm going to clean it up and then copy and paste it through the whole song. This is kind of the verse, but watch, I'm going to play. Here's the very beginning of the song. So here's measure 15 right at the top there. That's what that means. So the pattern goes from 15, and then that's where it starts. So listen carefully. Then it starts over. So the pattern goes from 15 to 23. How many measures is that? Probably 8. Yeah, if you take 15 and subtract from 23. So this, let me just kind of cut a quick chop right here, chop right there, over here to 23. So this area right there, that's our pattern. All right, so let's create some nice clean notes that we can use to just put that whole deal together. I think all we need is 4 notes. We need a C, this note. We need to, here's the way the pattern goes. I'm going to make the piano an octave lower. That sound about right? Okay, so that, maybe I need 5 notes. But anyway, let me get to work here. Let me find one good note to start with that will kind of like change pitch and make it a note. So I'm going to solo this out now. Hear the bass by itself. Now that sounded like a nice clean note right there. Let me, so that one little note right there, let me, notice that white line is there. That means I've turned the volume down of this because this is where we punched him in and we made him a little, we made him quieter. But let me click this region, and now up here is a thing that says -2 on the volume. If I push this back up, you see it starts going near 0. It's kind of hard to put it exactly at 0, so I'm just going to go up here, double click into there and hit 0, and now it's where it needs to be. This is the note we like, so I'm going to zoom in near the very beginning of it, cut it right where it starts, right about there, and then zoom back, and let's go to the end of the note, which would be, let's temporarily, I'm going to peel this back so we don't hear it. Let's hear that note by itself. See, that's a nice clean note. So let's now, he finishes playing it about here. You know, when you're cutting bass guitar up, a lot of times if you cut it in a spot like right on a waveform, like right, let me zoom in some more. If I was to cut it right there, it would be an ugly pop when it goes past. So I'm going to undo that. Now, if I turn on a thing that's up here, I guess you can see that it says snap to zero crossing. Now when I cut, it won't let me see how the cursor is. If I go this way, it'll only cut at a spot where it crosses the zero line. And if I cut there, I won't have a pop. So let's cut it right about maybe there. I don't really need this stuff. This is basically noise. And then I'll fade this out. And then this will be our main note we're going to use. I'm going to hear it by itself. See how it's nice and clean. So that's a C note. Some of you might think I'm crazy to go through all this trouble, but we're going to create a nice clean bass track. So I'm going to I'm going to create a brand new little file of this that's going to be our one individual note. And in Cubase, I'm going to do what's called bounce the track. I'm going to select it, go up here to you can't see the menu, but the menu says audio, and then the thing I'm going to go to, it says bounce selection. And now when I do that, it asks me, are you sure you want to do that? You want to replace the event? And I'll say yes. Now notice how it just gave it this name bass, because that's the name of the track over here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to now rename this file right about here. You can't see it on your screen, I'm sorry, but let me fix it so you can. It's this right here. I'll name this file just C, because now it says it's C because it's the C note, this one here. This one. I'm sorry, this note. All right, so now I'm going to take that one C note and create all the other notes we need. Now, here we go. I'm just, now that I have this kind of blank track below it here, I'm going to pull this down. I'm going to duplicate it. And the way you do that is you can hit Control D, and now there's a second one, and now I'll put this down here. Now I'm going to need an F note. So if I select this and hit a pitch change command, that opens up this window here. I need to pitch change it down that much. This is kind of fine tune. I don't want to change the fine tuning pitch of this, but here's the new note. That's the note I want. So I'll hit process, and now we have a new note. Let me just move this out of the way so y'all can hear it. This is our new bass note. Now, so here's a C right here. I'm going to solo this out. Now here's going to be an F. See, a nice and clear F note. So now let's bounce this. One kind of a quick shortcut, if I want to bounce it and I want to give it the name F, I'll just put this to say F right here. Click that, hit bounce. As I said, I do this so much I have a shortcut key for it. Now let's make the next note, which is going to be a G note. So I'll duplicate this again. There's pull it down here so I can see it. That's our C note, but I want to make it a G, so I'll go to the pitch change thing again, go right here, and hit process. And now I'll bounce this again. I'll put it up here if I'm going to bounce it. Some of this may seem kind of confusing to you. Notice over here, this has a little dash on this track. If I bounce it on this track, I make that a dash. I don't want to name it that. I'm going to go up here to the file renamer part of this thing, which is right there, and name this G. Now, I just thought about something. It's very possible that I started out with a note, this C note I have here, is possibly out of tune a little bit, and that means that all these notes are going to be out of tune. So let's check the tuning of this thing. If I double click into it, now it launches this thing called the sample editor. Let me make it bigger so you can see it. And now if I hit this thing that says Vary Audio and hit this let me make this display taller. This shows me that the pitch of that note is a C, and it looks like it's in tune. I think if I can hear it here, watch, if I pull this up, I don't want to do that. So I'm just showing you that this shows the pitch of this thing here. Now it's possible that I'll make it a little taller, that the pitch kind of like sags at the end a little bit, but maybe that's okay. If I make it very stable and not sag at all, it'll just sound funny, like a synthesizer or something. So anyway, let's close this and go back to work. So I got those 3 notes. I got this note, and I have this, and I have this note. So here's our pattern. I'm sorry. Boom. It starts on actually an F. Boom. Yeah, it goes to that. So we need an E note way down there. So I think that's where he played that. Let's hear his pattern one more time. Yeah, that's an E way down low. So let's take our C note, pull it right here. I pulled it and I duplicated it. When I pulled it down there, I held down the Alt key, which made a duplicate of it. Let me zoom in some here. And let's change that to an E note. So now if I hit the pitch change thing here and go way down there to that, and I can just preview it here. That's the note I want, so hit process. Notice how it makes the note longer too, but that's okay. We'll deal with that later. So I'm continuing to create the bass notes that I need. This one right here that I have selected right there, that's in, let me bounce it. So I do the bounce command. It put a little dash on it because that's what this track is named over here. But now I need to rename it to file renamer. I'm going to name it an E. And we need one more note, and that's going to be an A, because the pattern on the second half goes like this. Boom, 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 boom. That's an A note. So let's grab this one more time. I'm duplicate it. It puts it there. Temporarily just put it down here. Launch the pitch change. And I need to take it to right there. It should sound like this. That's it. Hit process. See, again, it made it longer because it's a lower note. I'm going to bounce it. Now, when I bounce it, what name will it give it? It's going to give it this name that I have right there. It's just a dash. And that's fine temporarily. I don't care. I'll go to my file renamer deal up here and name it A. So here we go. Now we're going to start creating the bass track. What I might do is just create a blank track right below the blue bass track, so I'll know, just to be able to have a track to put my stuff together. Now I got a better idea. Yes, that's what I'll do. So I'll make a blank track there, add a track, a mono track, and now let me put all my, sometimes it helps if you color these notes different colors, but let me just slide this here. Let's see, there's the G. Where's the F? Oh, there's the F. And we had an E. I think there's a note, there's a G. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, so let me find the spot where we need to start building it. I think it's back here someplace. That's it. So that's an F note. Let's put an F right there. Now, let's grab all these and kind of pull them in this area. And I'm going to, you see, the measure 15, that's the start of a measure, and I want this to kind of snap to that. When I just slide it around here, it snaps, it flows freely. What I want to do is turn on this thing right up here that says snap to grid, snap on, off and on, and now it snaps to spots like that. So I want to put it there. That's the first spot we want. So now I'm going to turn on my speaker tool, That's that note. Okay, so now the next note is, so that's this note. But see, the problem is now they kind of overlap. So let me zoom in this area. And you see, I need to take this F note. Why don't we do this before I mess up that F note? Let me make a duplicate of an F note and put it down here. Now, and move this out of the way. This note needs to stop right there. So I cut it right there on that line. And now I'm going to fade it out so it kind of ends gracefully. Put this there. Boom. This so goes. Let me see what we got here. I think that's it. So this note needs to be a G. So let me put all the pieces that I'm going to use down here. Let's see, I got an F. I need my C note, so I'm going to put the C back here. And then we need a G right here. So whenever I drag the note up there, if I just drag it, then I lose the original. Let me undo that. If I hold down the Alt key and pull it, then I have it like that. This note needs to end right there. And so I'll get rid of that little, let me zoom in a little bit. I don't want that piece there. Now, I notice that the C note looks like it ends before the measure is over. And I hope that doesn't sound funny, but we'll hear it in a minute. So let's go back to listening to what this is supposed to sound like. That's like we need another C there. So here's a C. I'm going to hold down the Alt key and drag it over there. Let's keep going. There's an F again. And that's that E, that low E, and that's there. So I'm going to hold down the Alt key and pull it up there. But it's got to be over by there. So I cut that there, fade this out. Let's see what's next. The reason I'm hearing this, I'm only hearing the blue track, which is the bass, because I have it soloed here. So this note here, that sounds like a G. So I'll put a G there. And then I need to cut this right here, fade it out. And let's see what's next. 2 Gs. And now we're going back to our F note. Here's an F. Ooh, I don't want that. Close that. Put this here. Pull this way. Fade it out that way. There's a C again. So where's a good, nice C I can use? Here's one. I might as well pull this over to this area. Now I'm going to hold down the Alt key and pull it here. That's a G. When I drug it over, I held down the Alt key. There's that A. Oh. And that's that boom. Let me hear what note that is on the piano. Yeah, and it's an F. So where's an F? Here's an F. When I grab them from here, it's kind of good because they're already cut to the right length. And the next note is probably a G. Wow, there's a nice long C. Maybe I'll use it for this since these C's aren't long enough. See how that C and that C are kind of short? So I need a G right here, we said, and I need a C. Let's take that C right there and just copy it and put it right down here. Now let's hear this track that we're just messing with right here and hear what it sounds like to see if we're creating something that might work. So now I'm going to solo out this new track. Well, that sounds pretty good, actually. I'm kind of pleased with that. Let's hear it with the drums to see how it's working. So I'm going to release this solo here, turn off the blue track, and let's hear this with the drums now. I like it, but I don't really like the hole when he stops. So somehow we're going to need to get a longer C. This C here, I guess y'all heard it. It kind of rattles a little bit. Listen. Maybe that's okay. So I'm going to attempt to take this note, which is a short C, pull it over here, and this is a long C note. Let me go ahead and I need to put the volume back up to 0 on this. And then I'm going to bounce it. Well, yeah, let's bounce it. And it says that name, but let's call it C long. C long. And now let's see if I can use the first part of this note and the last part of that note, and I'll have a nice combination. This is a little tricky, but let's see if we can pull this off and make this work. I'm going to clean this up and make it stop right there. Now I'm going to cut this about, let's hear this long C note and see. I think the front part rattles, but the back part doesn't. So here we go. So it sounds kind of clean. Let's cut this, get rid of this, take this, duplicate it, and put it up here. And now I'm going to crossfade this area. I hope this works. So now let's hear this note, this new long note I just made. Now there's a problem in that spot. So we're working on cleaning up this bass part, and I created 5 individual notes that are these 5 down here. We don't hear these because I have the track muted over here. The volume's completely off on this track. And this is the new pattern I generated with these 5 notes. Here's his original bass. Let's start out by hearing that so you can hear the improvement we've made. Okay, so now here's the new bass. This should be much more consistent. Now, understand that sometimes we're going to go back to him playing. Like, for example, there's a long note here on the end, and that's another C note. The only C note we have is this short one. So I created a longer C note, and that's going to be here. So let's take that out, put this here. Notice how this thing is snapping to the grid, which makes this whole process kind of easy. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do is try to figure out the pattern for this whole song, and then create the rest of the song. A lot of it's going to be very repetitive, so I can just copy this pattern. This is the verse we're on here, and there'll be probably another pattern for the chorus.